everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Charlotte and it's the end of January, which only means one thing: a January wrap up. I'm going to be talking about all the books I have read in January and telling you my thoughts, my ratings. Is it worth it? Do I recommend them? It has been a good month. That is going to be a hint. Without further ado, there's not really much else to say. I'm going to hop right into the first book I read in January. A Light in the Flame is the first book that I've read in January. Well, I've started in December, but I finished it in January. And according to Goodreads, that means I read it in January because on that website it is going towards my yearly goal. So I'm counting this as a January read. This is the second book of the Flesh and Fire series. A Shadow in the Ember is the first one. I love A Shadow in the Ember. I think I gave it 4.5 stars or something. So I had really high hopes for this one. I just struggled with this one a little bit. I only gave it a 3.5 stars and 3 chilies as in the spice rate. So from 5 chilies it's 3. It's got explicit scenes in it. I do like a miscommunication trope here and there. However, it's been used like 500 times in this book. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. It was overused in this book. And after a while, it just really annoyed me. I'm like, just talk to each other. Like, you spend every day with each other. Just talk about it. Like, they talk about all these different things, but the actual problems they always avoid and obviously then miscommunicate with each other, and it's just so annoying after a while. Also, I found that Jennifer L. Armentrout, she uses a lot of dialogue in this book to explain events and explain the world and just explain what's going on. She uses dialogue because it's the easiest way to get a point across, but I thought it was very poor writing. I don't know how to explain the phenomenon, but I felt like they were only talking in this book. Like, there was barely any thoughts of Sarah or Nyctis. It was just pure dialogue all the time, and it kind of got a little bit boring, do you know, to just read dialogue, because like Sarah is always like, oh, why is it like this? Why is that happening? Why? And then Nyctis or what's his name, Nectas, explains a lot of things, but only after Sarah prompts him and asks him. Like, nothing ever gets described without dialogue, and that kind of really annoyed me. Also, it is very repetitive. I felt like a lot of things that happen here happened in the first book. So overall, it was a good read. It took me a little bit longer than A Shadow in the Ember. Obviously, the smut scenes, you know, all that steamy and spicy stuff is very good. I do like it. And Nyctis is still, you know, number 1, but it was not as good as the first book. Saying that, the last, I don't know, 100 pages or so, it picked up and it got really interesting because I actually got into the story and new things happened, and it ended with a cliffhanger, and I was quite annoyed because I need to know what happens next. So I will definitely read the next one. However, this one was kind of disappointing. Alright, next up. The next book that I've read is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is about Jude's brother Oak. If you've read the Cruel Prince series, you will know of Oak. He is much younger in that series, so this plays like 8 years later or something like that. So he is grown up. Don't quote me on that. I think he's like a teenager or 20 or something like that. So this is mostly about Lady Surin because it is written in her perspective and it follows her journey rather than Oak's. But obviously they meet and go on an adventure together. And it ended with a cliffhanger, so there's definitely going to be a second book. It was so interesting to read about Lady Surin because she is introduced in the Cruel Prince series, and we get to know her as a tortured little child. We get to actually know her story, know her background. Obviously this is 8 years later, so we get to follow her story grown up. It is quite tragic, but it's also so lovely to see how strong of a character she's become and how much she's overcome just herself, and the way she grew up versus the way she lives now. It's just brilliant to see. It is lovely written. It is nice to be back in Elfhame. It's such a lovely world there, and we got to go back for Oak, who is also being described as kind of a, you know, rebel. Everyone always thinks he's the quiet, shy boy, but actually he's got a lot of stuff in him, a lot of good attributes. We get to see them become friends again, even, you know, a little bit more. So we follow Lady Surin, or Ren, in this book, who 8 years later lives in the world of the humans, and she doesn't live particularly nicely. We get to see her lifestyle and how it changed and what has happened and what she has been through, what she had to endure for the last 8 years, and it is quite sad. But then she stumbles across Oak and his friends, well, his one friend and a prisoner. Oak basically makes her a deal, and they end up going on a little adventure together to the Court of Teeth, where Lady Surin is from, to defend Elfhame from her mother, because she is a psycho, and Oak also wants to accomplish something, so they go on a little adventure up north while encountering lots of different things. But then there's a big plot twist in the end, and Oak is just so lovely. It is so refreshing to see him grown up and become such a gentleman almost. And it is just very cute and pretty and easy to read. I really recommend this. I gave this 4.5 stars, and this is definitely for people who like the Cruel Prince series, who love the world of Elfhame, who love Jude and Cardinal mentioned here and there, which is a nice surprise, and who just love to see the tropes of fae, magic, forced proximity, because, you know, they're kind of like stuck together, second chances. It is really lovely and a nice little read. I definitely recommend it. My next read was Queen of Myth and Monsters. This I was so freaking excited for, because if you've watched I don't know if my last one, I think it was the one before that, basically when I told you all my favorites from last year, the first one, The King of Battle and Blood, is one of my favorite reads of last year. I was so surprised when I read that first book of this series. I did not expect to like it so much, but I was so excited about it, and it kind of disappointed me. I still gave it 3 stars, so I'm kind of like, it's average. I'm indifferent about it, because the last 100 pages, again, were really good. I think I read the last 100 pages in one go. I just couldn't stop. This follows the first book about Isolde and Adrian. Adrian is a vampire, and Isolde is the princess from another kingdom, and he forced her to marry him in the first book. In this book, they are already lovers, so it was rather sort of boring, because there was no tension, there was no groveling. I mean, it is cute that they now, you know, love each other and accepted each other, and there's lots of things still happening, and there's one major thing that's happening that kind of weirded me out, like, a lot. So if you've read it, please let me know. It's about Isolde, what happens to her. So if you've read it, please leave your comment what you thought, because I had to close the book and like do an office moment, because I looked like in this imaginary camera and was like, are you for real? But still, it's the strangest plot twist that I've ever seen. And then again, there's another plot twist near the end, which is, I've kind of suspected it. It is quite interesting, and there will be a third book because it ended again on a cliffhanger. So it was just a little bit boring. I didn't hate it. That's why I gave it 3 stars. I'm kind of indifferent about it. I definitely think the first book was so much better. However, if you do a multiple POV book, please do at least sort of an equal amount of both. I think there were only 2 chapters in Adrian's POV, and I'm not lying. It was mostly Isolde, and it was kind of boring, because Isolde's life has become kind of boring until that plot twist. But it would have been nice to see more of Adrian's point of view. We get a few chapters which are really interesting, because you get to know actually their backgrounds and things they've gone through, and we find out a lot of things about Adrian which are unexpected again. So it is a good book in a way. It is definitely a good second book to the series, but the first book just blew me away, so maybe my hopes were a little bit too high. But if you like the first one, I still recommend reading the second one because the last 100 pages were really good. I just hope Isolde and Adrian's relationship gets a little bit more interesting and they actually do more things together, because in this book they did quite a lot of things separately, which was also a little bit annoying. So don't want to just talk about the plot. Also, this has a lot of spicy scenes, so it is definitely more of a new adult book. I just want to make you aware. I rated it 4 chilies out of 5, so it has quite a lot of them and they're quite explicit, and I like that they didn't make the book just about the smut scenes. However, there were so many of them, and sometimes I was like, are you seriously thinking about that right now after like things happened, bad things happened? It's just the focus on the smut and their lust is very, very prominent, and there are scenes and times where I thought it was inappropriate to include a scene like that. It just didn't add to the story, so I didn't really appreciate that. It has good smart scenes in it, I'm not going to lie, but sometimes they were a little bit out of place. So overall it was an average book, nothing amazing, but I also didn't hate it. The next book I read has been a game changer. I haven't read a fantasy book that I love this much since A Court of Thorns and Roses. I loved everything about this book, and I'm not gonna keep you waiting any longer. It is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I adored this book, and I still adore it. I tapped it so much. I don't even know where to start. It has 1 million stars. Everything about it is good. Everything about it is so freaking brilliantly done. And I cannot believe I have to wait for the sequel. And the thing is, Carissa Broadbent hasn't even released the cover, the blurb on the back, or anything. She doesn't even know the release date. It hopefully will be before April. We can only hope. This book follows the female protagonist, human-born Oriah. And Oriah is, like I said, she is human, nothing special about her. She was adopted by Vincent when she was little. He is the Nightborn vampire king. He took her in as his own, so she grew up as a human in a world of vampires, well, in a castle and in the vampire district. So she was surrounded her entire life by vampires, so she always felt like prey. But whenever she was amongst the humans, when she snuck out into the human district, she never really felt like a human. So she was always torn between these two worlds, and we get to really see her conflict and her struggle to fit in. And it was just so brilliant because, I mean, you know, it's not something that is covered a lot, this internal struggle that you just don't fit in. And yes, this is about vampires and humans, but this can be applied to so many things. She had to become really strong mentally and physically to survive in this world because she's prey for vampires. It was amazing. The character building that Oriah has gone through is honestly astounding. And Vincent, he is the Nightborn king of the House of Night. In this House of Night, there are 2 clans of Nightborn vampires. There is the Rishan, who is one sort of clan, but they got absorbed by the Hyaj vampires, which is the other clan. These are the rival clans in the House of Night, and then there is the House of Blood and the House of Shadows. Those are the 3 main houses the vampires exist in, which is important to note and understand. While we're getting introduced to Oriah, we get to learn her goal in life. The year that this plays in is where the Kejari takes place. It is a sort of trial competition that happens every 100 years, and the winner gets to make a wish to the goddess Nyaxa. I'm hoping I pronounce all these names correctly. In my mind, they sound right. I don't know if they sound spoken out right. This trial, this Kejari, is held in her name, and she grants the winner a prize. We learn Oria's goal, and so she takes part in the Kajari. There she is one of the only humans, I'm pretty sure. And in these trials she meets Rain, a vampire from the Hyaj vampire clan, so of the different clan of her father's. They become allies. They learn to sort of trust each other, at least for the game's sake. It is a really great and perfect slow burn. It is not too slow, it is not too fast. You can feel the tension, you can feel the angst and the suspense. It is honestly so present and so well done in this book. The world building is also done really well. You definitely picture it so well, what is being described. Like, it's as if you're seeing it in front of your eyes. We get to really feel this rivalry between the two clans, the importance of this trial, the importance of Oria's father, because he's the king of the vampire court of the Rijan. So there's just lots going on politically, and then within the trial she is faced with so many things that she has to overcome, and you get to experience that with her. Also, you know, the relationship with Rain. And what is also really nice to see and really refreshing to see is their dialogue and how they solve problems and how they just communicate. It is so mature and well done. The banter is extremely entertaining to read. It is not childish, it is not forced. It describes themselves so much. They stay true to themselves and they develop separately but also together. And the plot twist at the end, it is out of this world. I got so freaking annoyed and I can't wait to read more about Oriah and Rain. This book, obviously, it ticks all the boxes. It is a masterpiece in everything. I have nothing to say that I would do different, that I don't like. Honestly, I could talk about this book for so long and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not gonna talk about it more. But if you love romance, slow burn, suspense, enemies to allies to lovers, vampires who have wings, by the way, forbidden love, angst, all the good stuff, and if you like a really strong female character, you will love this book. Please give it a try. I can't wait to read the next one. I know there's going to be many books in this series. Carissa Broadbent, honestly, she's become, only after this book, one of my favorite authors. I just love this book. I could say so many more things, but I gave it 5 stars and a 3 spice rating. So it has really some delicious slow burn. It's got multiple scenes in it. So it is not overwhelming. It is the place and the perfect place that makes sense. It's not the main focus of this book, but it is included, which is always a plus. So it has everything you ever wanted. If you loved A Court of Thorns and Roses, if you love From Blood and Ash, if you love any of those books, you will love this one. Trust me. Trust me. Oh my god, I love this book so much. The next book that I've read is quite different. If you've seen my last video of series that I want to read this year, this series was included. And I'm so glad I finally read it. Well, the first book. I'm still waiting to receive the second book in the mail. And I can't believe it's not here yet. I need to know more. Okay, I'm gonna let you know. It is the Inheritance Games. This series, well, I can't talk about the series, but I can talk about this book. I flew through it. I read this in like a day and a half. It was such a refreshing read. This was just easy to read. Avery is a brilliant female protagonist who we get to learn is like so clever. I only wish I could be just a tiny bit like her. She is very strong for her age, very clever. She's very confident for her age, which we find out she has to be. We sympathize with her immediately. We get to follow along as Avery navigates this new world because it is so new for her when she inherits this big sum from the stranger that she allegedly has never met, has no idea who that is. So we get to fall into this world with her, get to experience all her firsts with her, and the four brothers are not making it easy for her. Let me just say that. Wow, they are a bunch of annoying and spoiled boys. It was very interesting to get to know each grandson's personality because they couldn't be any more different. It is very cleverly done, the whole mystery about the inheritance, what it means and why her. It's so cleverly done, and I just want to know more because I still have no idea about anything. I know a few glimpses now, but I don't know what happens next. There's 2 more books, so I can't wait to read more. I liked the ending, and I liked that over time the brothers grew to like her, she grew to like them. It is just a very cute and easy read that keeps you on your toes. I read this so quickly. It is so easy to read. The writing is simple but yet gripping, like you just want to keep reading because you want to know more about the mysteries. The chapters are really short, which makes it so easy to just fly through this book. If you like friends to lovers, forced proximity, rivals, mystery, this book is definitely for you, and I'm pretty sure this series is for you because I am just hooked now. I need to know more about it. I gave this 4.5 stars. Again, I just really liked it. No spicy things happen at all. It is very PG and it's just very cute. I really like all the characters. I've grown to really like them all. And I just can't wait to know the actual mystery behind the inheritance because I have no idea, so please no spoilers. I do really recommend this series. If the other 2 books are anything like this, I will love this series. So I definitely recommend it. This was a very good read. And last but not least, the last book I read in January, I read in a day. In less than a day, in like 6 hours. The book I'm talking about is Flock by Kate Stewart. It is the Ravenhood trilogy. It is the first book of the trilogy. I have the second book in the mail coming to me because I need to know more. This is quite different to the other reads. This has so many explicit scenes in it. I don't even want to go into that, but wow. I got introduced to this as a modern take on Robin Hood. I have no idea where that's come from. I hope that the next book introduces this myth more because it does not remind me of Robin Hood so far. I was a bit shocked, but wow, I was entertained. I read this book in 6 hours, less than a day. It was really interesting, and the sort of friends to lovers. It was intriguing to see Cecilia, who is the main character in this book, female protagonist. We get to see her coming out of her shell, most definitely. She visits her father, who sort of is a billionaire who owns the town that she grew up in. She hasn't seen him for 8 years, so they're kind of, not on the best terms. So she doesn't really want to be in that small town, but then she meets Sean, who she befriends, and he invites her to his house where she meets all of his friends. Things happen. I really enjoyed this book. Yes, it has very explicit scenes in it. This book isn't purely smut. It doesn't revolve around the smut. It definitely has a story, and this is only the first of the trilogy, so I'm hoping the second book goes more into the actual Robin Hood sort of take, because I didn't really see anything in this book. But it was so fun to read. It's so fun to explore Sean and then Dominic, who is Sean's, they say, brother. They're just really good friends because they know each other from very young. Their characters and how Cecilia interacts with them, how she grows more confident in her skin with the 2 boys and more friends and just within herself. To be honest, I didn't really know what was happening for most of the book. I was a bit confused, the whole mysteriousness about a secret. I mean, it even says on here, can you keep a secret? There is very much secrecy going on. I'm still not exactly sure what the secret is, and I'm still not sure what the whole big thing at the end is, where typically, something dramatic happens, everything goes well for a time, and then, they blow up, and, well, not literally, but their relationship, something happens, and, then they solve it, but they haven't solved it in this book yet. I didn't really understand it, but honestly, I think most people that I've talked to who read this series, they said they didn't understand the plot most of the time, but it's just a fun read, and it is a very explicit book. I had to breathe a couple of times. This was very hot and steamy, wow, but very interesting to read. It's literally a girl thrown into the wolf den with these boys who are a little bit older than her as well. I'm really looking forward to reading the next few books, just to mostly know more about Dominic, because he is being described as a very delicious man. So I'm intrigued to just find out more about Cecilia and Sean and Dominic and all the other friends who I forgot the names of. I am very sorry. And so the main tropes of this book are a love triangle which takes place. It is a sort of workplace environment. It is a grumpy and sunshine coupling. It is a dark romance, has alpha males in it, age gap because the boys are a little bit older. Overall, it is friends to lovers with a slow burn love triangle twist. And I rated this book 4 stars because I really liked it. I didn't love it. It's not a sort of book that I will love just because of the whole plot. But I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 chilies because it is very spicy. I'm looking forward to reading the next 2 books to see where the journey is gonna take me and whether the Robin Hood take, the modern Robin Hood take, is going to eventually happen. So these were all my reads of January. Quite a few books. I did not expect to read so much in January because it started kind of slow and I thought I was gonna go into a reading slump, but I'm glad I got out of it and read so many amazing books. And if you read any of these books, comment below, tell me your opinion. Do you agree with me or do you have a completely different opinion? Also leave in the comments, how many books have you read? What was your favorite book of January? If I were to pick my favorite book of January, The Serpent and the Wings of Night is my favorite book I've read in January. I highly recommend it so much. Alongside with the Inheritance Games, I really recommend this series to you. Even though I haven't read the rest, I recommend it. As well as The Stolen Heir. This was such a delightful read. If you take anything away from this video, read any of these 3 books and you will thank me. That's it for this video, and I hope I gave you some inspiration for books to read yourself. Anyway, this is it for this video, and have a lovely day, night, morning, whenever you watch this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!